Well, good morning, everyone. Hope nobody was planning on having a great rest of the evening because, wow, we got some breaking news, passing bomb, Heyman bomb, whatever you want to call it. A little early morning, late night, late Friday, early Saturday morning. Baseball, Corbin Burnes to the Arizona Diamondbacks, 6 years, $210 million. Obviously, welcome to Kevin and Zach Reacts. I'm Zach Bonder. Behind the stage, join me now, Kevin Ostreicher. Kevin, Corbin Burnes. Let me get it up here just for have the visual. Corbin Burnes to the Arizona Diamondbacks, 6 years, $210 million. Let's just say it. We've talked about before. We felt like Arizona, even though Arizona, I'm kind of shocked it's them because you didn't hear any rumors about him, but he lives in Arizona, family's in Arizona. Reports came out later from Bob Nightingale that the Giants and Blue Jays offered him more money, but he turned down more money to go to Arizona. It feels like that's kind of where he wanted to go. But Kevin, so much to discuss tonight. Initial thoughts. How we feeling?
First reaction is just disappointment.
Yeah.
This was a player that, you brought in to be an ace. Hopefully the goal was to have him long term. Obviously there was no guarantee, and that's the risk of trading for a guy with 1 year left on his deal who's a pending free agent, because you never know how those things go. But obviously with new ownership coming in, there was a whole conversation about, okay, what is the offseason going to look like for this team? There were certainly very high expectations. Corbin was the best pitcher on the market. You and Isaac have not shied away from that fact. A lot of people have not shied away from that fact. And Corbin had a full year to acclimate himself to the organization, to, I guess have a feel it out period. But it just felt like that, like dooming inevitability, even since the All-Star game, when he left the All-Star game early and he wanted to go be with his family, which is 100% within his right. I'm not mad at Corbin for being a family guy, right? I'm not whatsoever. But different players have different priorities. And we've talked about this. I know Ryan has talked about this.
Yeah.
Corbin wanted to be with family. And, could the Orioles have offered him $400 million and maybe he could have stayed? It's possible. I mean, you look at 215, you look at that number, or 210, excuse me, and you're thinking, man, could they really have not matched that? I'm sure they could have. They definitely could have. But the thing is, Corbin, it just feels like he didn't want to be in Baltimore. Like that is what it is. And now this team has to move forward, and there aren't as, like, Corbin was the best shot. He was the best shot. Now you have to move on. And we'll talk about who else is out there, but it's just a disappointing turn of events because, you had a guy, you give up quality assets for him. And I commend the organization for making a swing like that, especially with the risks. But the fact that they're not able to retain him, the fact that Corbin leaves is more than disappointing. And now there are more questions than answers. And who knows when we actually get those answers.
Yeah. And we really don't know. All we know right now is that the Giants and the Blue Jays offered more money. So that's not Baltimore. We don't know what Baltimore's final offer was. We don't know if they even came close in the final offer part of this. So we really have no clue. But like you said, Kevin, this really opens up more questions, starts way more questions than we have answers now, because there is still that slight thought of, okay, if Corbin, does he come back? I think we had kind of been under the impression, I think, for a while now that we didn't expect him back, just because it didn't feel like the Orioles were making that a priority. So am I surprised they went elsewhere? Absolutely not. I kind of expected that. I was not shocked. I was shocked by the team, because we hadn't heard the Diamondbacks in the final, these teams are interested. These are front runners. I will say, if there's a consolation prize, At least it's not the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays, once again, just they love getting I think teams just or agents just use the Blue Jays to drive up the price at this point. It's just they're in on everyone, but they never get anyone. It truly is ridiculous. It really does. It leaves more questions than we have answers right now, especially when you look at the Orioles pitching rotation. There is now another guy off the board. It just I'm not sure where the Orioles go. I mean, we'll talk about I think the trade market is where they have to look. There's no one left on the free agent market that really moves me as a top of the line pitcher. But they got to make something happen because they can't sit complacent with what they have.
Well, I mean, look, Zach, here's the reality. And again, I want to make it clear that we're not done with the offseason. There is still plenty to go. And I'm not trying to make it seem like that's the case. But the Orioles, as it stands on Saturday, December 28th at 1:56 a.m., are a much worse baseball team than they were last season. And the Orioles have time to try to figure out how they want to pivot, how they want to patch some of these holes up. But you had an ace. Yes, Corbin had a rough August, but he was everything and more for the most part that they need. And you know what honestly, Zach, stings the most for me? Is the last time that we see Corbin pitch, he goes out there and delivers the gem of all gems in the playoffs, and the Orioles can't even win the game for him. That's what stings the most.
One run and 8+, Orioles can't get the win. So, yeah, I wonder. I'm saying Rosenbagger. Yeah, I wonder if they're taking if in the negotiations it was the cleat cleaner will always be out there on time. Remember we had that debacle. Supposedly, oh my goodness. But Kevin, let's there's not too much to honestly talk about in regards to Corbin because I think we both kind of assumed he was gone. It's now the question is, especially for the Orioles, it's, hey, what the hell are you going to do next? Because as we said, you're not going to be able to throw out this rotation right now and feel confident, especially in a playoff atmosphere, that you're going to get it done. And hell, throw the playoff atmosphere out of it. I don't know if you have the depth starting pitching wise to even get through a full 162 and be competitive. Just because injuries, all that, like we saw the depth last year and how good we felt about it with Corbin Burnes, with Kyle Bradish, all of them, with John Means, with Tyler Wells. And it still got ran thin because of injuries. They then had to have guys step up like Suarez, like Povich, and it was still running thin. So they need to get one more big-time starting pitcher, and that's going to come via trade. And then they need to get a veteran free agent. I know we've talked about Max Scherzer. I think he's a guy that really kind of sticks out to me. He's just a veteran guy. He's going to be super cheap, just kind of trying to be a veteran on a competitive team. You get him to be a back-end guy, but also just a veteran in the clubhouse. But you need another top-end guy. I think we'll get into that with trades and all that. But, Kevin, where do you see kind of the Orioles going?
You need at least one more top-end guy because I'll ask this question. How confident do you feel in Grayson being the team's number one if they don't get that guy? That's a question that everybody has to ask themselves. I'm sure some people would say, hey, he's ready to take a step. He's ready to be that guy. Others would say they need someone else. I would. Here's the reason. I don't think it's that Grayson's not ready. I just think it was such a luxury for them to have a guy like Corbin and have Grayson as there too, or Eflin or whatever. Like, yeah, Grayson and Eflin, it was awesome as a 2-3. Like, that's one of the best 2-3s in the entire league. Like, that's nasty. And you have an ace like Corbin. Like, that's what made that rotation, despite all the injuries they went through. They ended up putting it together, and you had years like Suarez had and other guys stepping up when they needed. But you're not always going to get in Albert Suarez year from somebody like that. And there's no guarantee Albert has a year like that again. And, for a guy like Grayson and Jason, I see the point. Yeah. He hasn't played a full season. It's a good comment. It's like, it's almost like, for
You can't
those who
rely on him to be the number one. He can
no,
be the number
sure.
one if he I think it's one of those things where can Grayson be the number one on a club? We think he has the talent to. I don't think the talent's a question. But like Jason's saying here, you can't say, oh, Grayson's going to be our one because he hasn't shown us the full 162. He hasn't shown us, hey, I'm going to produce throughout the entire season. We think he has the talent to do that, but where the Orioles are as a team, where they are in the championship window, you can't be relying on, hey, he's going to be our number one. He's going to take that step. You got to get a proven guy in here. And then if Grayson also takes a step to be a number one, then you have two number ones and we're feeling great. But you can't have your top end of the rotation be reliant on, hey, Grayson is going to overcome these injuries and be that number one immediately coming back.
Right. And that's the thing. It's almost like, if you are a Ravens fan or a football fan, because I do host Locked On Ravens, if you did not know.
No way.
Yeah, I know. It's a shock to most people. But it's like a Julio Jones. Everybody wanted Julio Jones on the Ravens. And I was like, look, if that happens, you have to account because the injury history is there. You have to account for missed games. Not that it's 100% going to happen, but you cannot go into the year with no backup plan, especially for the Orioles' sake, at a position like the number one starter on your team. And then, oh, look, Grayson missed time. Oh, who saw that coming? Well, everyone, because he's had the injury history that he's had. Of course, we're all hoping Grayson can put together a full 162 this season, or a full comparable starts, I guess, because I know he doesn't pitch in all 162. But you can't just say, yeah, well, Grayson's going to be healthy this season. We don't know that. We don't know that for anybody because, like we've talked about with guys like Bradish and with guys like Wells, you're hoping those guys can come back at some point and be back to who they are. But with injuries, sometimes it takes some time. So the facts of the matter here is I agree with you. This top of the line guy is going to have to come via trade. I don't know if I can find it, or maybe if you have it, Zach, the availability of pitchers who are still out there in free agency right now.
Yeah, let me
just a list of those. I know everybody I see in the chat, Flaherty.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
Listen, I understand we can have the argument Flaherty's a different pitcher. He changed stuff mechanically, the confidence. Was he a different pitcher last year than he was with the Orioles? Without a doubt. I just don't see the Orioles and, quite frankly, Flaherty wanting to come back to Baltimore. I just think it was not a great match when they were, when it happened. And I think both teams just were kind of like, okay, we just need to go our separate ways. I don't necessarily think that that's, the big move that the Orioles need is adding Jack Flaherty back to this rotation.
No, I just think the thing with how the offseason has gone for Baltimore, Zach, is it's almost been like you're sitting back and watching your rivals and your competition get so much better.
Yeah.
And then here you are, and it's like, okay, we've talked about names, right? We talked about a guy like Walker Buehler. We've talked about a guy like when they go make a big splash for a Freed or someone like that. We've talked about guys who have signed for 1-year deals, or they go back to their teams, and we're like, okay, maybe the Orioles can make that move. Oh, no, that guy's gone. Nope. Okay, maybe this guy. Oh, no, now that guy's gone. And yes, they added Tyler O'Neill. Yes, they added Gary Sanchez, but even that, it's like they are minimal upgrades to push moves to even downgrades. And then obviously Corbin leaving is just like this massive arrow down. So you have to be able to get it to a point where that arrow at least evens out. But even if it evens out, that's disappointing based off of where this team was. And this is not Zach and I just being reactionary. Zach and I have been talking about this for months, where it's like, if they lose Corbin, they have to have the team in a better spot without Corbin than they were at the end of last year, because you can't just go back into 2025 being the same team you were, having the same amount of talent you had, because where did that get you last season? Guys can grow. Guys can, mature and take on bigger roles, and we're expecting to see that from some players this upcoming year. But it can't be all that you rely on. And so you had an ace, you lost an ace. And honestly, Zach, they're not going to get a pitcher as good as Corbin. Like, that's just the reality that has to be faced right now, right? We all are super disappointed by that, but they have to find a way to at least salvage this offseason. But to me, I just find it really hard to see this team being in a better spot entering 2025 than they were at the end of 2024, unless they make multiple big time pitching moves. And maybe they have one in them, but I'm not sure if there are multiple.
Yeah, I don't. And, we talked about earlier with the free agents available, the guys left, and this is going in order of best WAR, so win above replacement, just kind of top to bottom. Jack Flaherty is the best remaining pitcher, according to WAR. Then it goes to Kyle Gibson, Justin Verlander, Charlie Morton, Andrew Heaney, Clayton Kershaw, 37 years old, Max Scherzer, Patrick Corbin, Jose Quintana, Michael Lorenzen. So this is not a list that if you're an Orioles fan, you're looking at the free agents and you're saying, okay, well, there's still the one guy or there's the two guys that you feel good about if you go out and get. The plan B, if we're going to go plan B, not a top-end guy, is the Manayas and the Evaldis. Both are gone. Okay, so then, like you said, okay, what are the Orioles going to do? Are they going to go out and try to get a Snell, try to get a Fried? Nope, those guys are gone too. So now your hand is forced. If you are the Baltimore Orioles, you have to make a trade. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to make a trade, whether that is with the Seattle Mariners, whether that is with the San Diego Padres. One of those two teams has to be making a deal with Baltimore. I think it's going to wait until Roki Sasaki signs with one of those two. I think he ends up, hopefully, a Padre or Mariner so that they want to give up one of their guys. But Kevin, guys like Luis Castillo, I know his name's out there. Obviously, Dylan Cease as well. Those are the two guys that feel like they're really always getting dangled over the past, and at least in the rumor mill the past month. But you have to go get one of those guys. It's not necessarily okay, well, let's wait. If it's not for the price we want, we're not going to do it. Those games are over. Hey, we're going to get guys only at the price where we feel we are winning. That's not how this works. If you want good players in baseball, in free agency, in trades, you have to overpay for good players. That's just simply how it is. And I think that's part of the issue with the Orioles right now is they're saying, hey, we're looking at your metrics, we're looking at your stats, this, that, and that, and we're coming up with this is what you're worth, and we're not going above that, whether it's in a trade, whether it's in free agency. And other teams are okay taking the risk of paying more to get these guys. And I think that's where Baltimore, whether it's prospects, whether it's money, they got to take more risks. They have to take more risks. And it can't just be these one-year things. We can't be going year to year of this, okay, now we need to find a new ace. Okay, now we need to find a new middle-of-the-order bat. Okay, now we need to find a new this. It has to get to the point where we can solidify a team. They got to, they have the young core, but you can't just put Band-Aids on it and be giving up prospects like Joey Ortiz and DL Hall to just be getting one-year rentals every year.
Right. I mean, that depletes your farm system if you're not getting the guy long-term. And so for a Dylan Cease, if that's the route they decide to go, you are kind of just playing that game all over again. And you're just kind of dealing with that uncertainty. And you're going to have to give up somewhat of a haul to go and get a guy like that. So controllable pitching is what they wanted at the deadline. They ended up getting a couple of those guys, nowhere near obviously the talent that Corbin was, but Corbin is one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And in order to get him even on a one-year deal, I mean, if Corbin was on like a 3-year deal, they would have had to given up like a Jackson or Samuel Basayo or one of those guys. 1-year deal Corbin cost them a couple of really talented players and obviously that competitive balance pick or whichever, I wasn't confused which pick they gave up, but it was a high draft pick. And we know that for Baltimore, this is the window. Now, hopefully the window can extend for a while, right? Hopefully the window can be a long-term window for them. But it has to be a combination of young talent and veteran talent. I think the Orioles like a lot of their young guys, but that's not what people want to hear right now. I think a lot of people like the Orioles young guys, but you have to round out the roster with vets. And one of the things, Zach, that we said all last year was the Orioles were too young. The Orioles didn't have enough of that leadership. And, you trade out James McCann for Gary Sanchez. That's vet for vet. And obviously McCann was very well respected in that clubhouse. Tyler O'Neill, and I'm just going to assume we're trading him out for Tony here for the Orioles. We're just going to go. That's vet for vet. But Corbin, we saw him get fired up and stick up for his teammates and felt like he was a guy that also kind of brought that fire and that energy. And now we're sitting here, okay, well, you lose another vet, and it just feels like this team needs leadership. Now, you bring in a guy like Chirinos, who I think is a coach, almost like a player coach, I'm going to call him, because that's kind of what it is here. Recently, a guy that joined the coaching staff. I think that will help, but you also need guys that are going out there and playing. Chirinos was there a couple of years ago out there with the team, but, man, this rotation as it stands is what Grayson, Eflin, opening day, because I'm not going to count Bradish and Wells. Those two.
Sagano.
Yes, Sagano. Kramer.
You're going to go Dean Kramer. I guess Suarez is now up in the air. Cade Povich.
Yeah, one of those two.
Yeah, so
unless they want Rogers and they're really going to force that issue. I mean,
I think Rogers there. For better or for worse, they are planning on him having a better year. Same speech as I gave with Grayson Rodriguez. Trevor Rogers in 2021, when he was lights out, absolutely lights out. If he gets back to that level, fantastic, awesome, great job, incredible asset. You cannot rely on that to happen. You cannot be going into the season wishing, hoping that Grayson takes that step, that Kyle Bradish is back by the end of the year, that Trevor Rogers takes that step, that, Cade Povich and Chase McDermott take that step. Like, we can't be relying on everyone to be taking steps. If your whole offseason plan was that the team's taking steps, you're not going to be as successful in 2025 because the Red Sox got a whole lot better. The Yankees, yes, wake up call.
They're balancing out.
They lost Juan Soto, but all around they're much, much better all around team. The Dodgers are still going to, obviously. The Astros trade away Kyle Tucker. They're still making moves.
Even the Tigers are
here. Labor Torres to the Tigers.
Yeah, Alex Cobb goes there. Torres.
A lot of teams are making moves. And it's getting to the point where if you're Baltimore, it's December 28th. We're not playing until March 28th. So they have 3 months now.
I mean, I would look with the way that spring training went for a lot of these guys last year. I'd give it till maybe 1 week into spring training, because if you sign a guy in spring training, like we saw Blake Snell, like we saw Jordan Montgomery, you're going to wait for that guy for probably 2 months before he's actually back to, or even 3 maybe, before he's actually back to himself. And maybe that guy doesn't even have a year like that. I mean, Blake Snell's recovery was insane last season. Mm-hmm. Jordan Montgomery wasn't so lucky in a lot of ways. So it can be a hit or miss thing there. I think the reason a lot of these guys are signing earlier now, and Zach, I know we've talked about this and Ryan's talked about it too, is the fact that it just was such a disaster last year for Scott Boras clients. And people saw that, they took note, and they said, hey, I want to get on a team now. They don't want that. And so I think now that this Corbin move, because this is also an interesting question here. This is also interesting.
Ramey, I wish I could tell you you're dreaming.
I wish, man.
I wish. This is reality.
Hey, we still have the Ravens. How about that?
Lamar Jackson. At least
still have that. But this is what I want to bring up. Mm. With Corbin's deal now done, does this jumpstart the rest of the offseason and we're just flying with moves? because we heard that, Corbin, Bregman, those guys weren't signing before Christmas. So now that Corbin has signed, do you feel like in the next 2-3 weeks, we're going to just get a flurry of moves? Or do you think it's still going to be kind of a slow burn until maybe like the end of January type deal?
I think it's going to, for the starting pitchers, I think it's going to be till Sasaki. I think we're going to see maybe a few minor moves. Like when I was listing guys, like maybe a guy like a Kyle Gibson, maybe a Lance Lynn, a Michael Lorenzen, maybe like one of those guys signs here or there. Maybe an Andrew Heaney goes somewhere. But I don't think any big-time moves, especially on the trade market, happen until Sasaki's done. I think that everyone is going to kind of turn their focus. If you were invited into the Sasaki sweepstakes, you're going to turn your focus there. I think especially teams who are match up well with the Orioles to make a trade, the Mariners and the Padres. I think that they're going to wait to see, hey, are we getting Sasaki or are we not, before making their decision on who they're trading and who they're hanging on to.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if we're ever going to get this type of information publicly, but I am curious if we're ever going to hear, because, we heard, San Francisco and Toronto offered this.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to hear anything about the Orioles in this conversation, or was it just kind of like, well, it always felt like he wanted to go west. That's always what it felt like, is he just wanted to go west. He wanted to be close to home. He literally gets to go home. Like we were all so hyper-focused on San Francisco. I don't think anybody saw Arizona coming.
No one, I didn't. Like, it was one of those, and we had, Ryan talked about on the show all the time where he said he felt if Arizona made a competitive offer, he'd go there. And everyone's like, yeah, of course. Like, obviously, if Arizona made it, but they're not going to make and never in the rumors, never in the, Arizona is joining the race. It was San Francisco and Toronto. San Francisco, Toronto. Hey, the Baltimore Orioles are still interested. I don't think the Orioles ever probably made an official offer. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. It definitely wasn't close to this, I'd assume. And I think Arizona saw he was sitting there, sent the offer, and in all honesty, Arizona might have been just as surprised as everyone else when he said yes. Like, if everyone else was offering more, but they knew he wanted to be there, it would not surprise me if they were like, hey, we could do 6 years, 210, and he was like, all right. And they were like, oh, okay. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I don't think anyone, it's very clear as more reports are coming out, he wanted to go to Arizona. He wanted to be close to home.
Look, and maybe that's something that, like, the Orioles can now take into account when doing research on guys. Like, it's literally, like, it sounds dumb. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but stuff like that, it mattered here. Like, it mattered here where Corbin wanted to go back west. I mean, it is so apparent. It's more than apparent that that's the thing. And guys, everybody has different aspirations and different goals for their career. Some guys want to win, and they'll do whatever it takes to win, and they will sacrifice money. They will sacrifice time with family. They will be in a position that gives them the best shot to win as many World Series or as many championships as possible. Other guys, whoa, my phone just slapped on my computer. Other guys just follow the money, right? Other guys just say, hey, I want to get paid as much as possible. Offer me the biggest contract, and I'm coming to your team. That's another thing. And then you also have the guys that, okay, maybe family's a factor, maybe weather. Some guys don't like pitching in the cold. Maybe they like to go somewhere warm. That's a factor. So these are all things that factor into where a guy goes, or where a guy wants to get traded to, or where a guy wants to spend the next however many years of his career. So maybe you throw that on the scouting report. Family man, maybe that's what you got to do from now on the scouting report.
Yeah. And it is one of those things where we talked about, you just never know. It isn't always just about who throws out the most money. It's so much. It's about where people want to be, their families fit, all of that. And we've talked about this. This is why we felt like if the Orioles are going to be good long term, it's because they're going to have to lockdown Gunnar, lockdown Jackson. And you feel like you have a better chance of locking those guys down because we've said with a guy like Corbin, he was here for 1 year. So he got a little bit of a taste of it, of what it's like to be an Oriole, what it's like to be building what the Orioles are building. Guys on the outside, when you're coming in for a meeting, if they want to go after Max Fried, if they want to go after whoever, they have to convince them to buy into what the Orioles are doing. And not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone wants to move their family to Baltimore. All that stuff. With guys like Jackson, guys like Gunnar, the homegrown talent who have been there from legitimately the bottom, the horrible 100-loss teams, coming through the system to where they are now, you can convince them because they've been a part of this. They've been a part of the locker room. And you can convince them. It's easier to be like, hey, you've seen what we're building, continue to be a part of it. That's easy. It's hard in these, pitches to all this stuff to convince these guys to come to Baltimore because for so long, Baltimore hasn't been a place where free agents want to go.
Yeah. And that's part of it too, where Baltimore is never going to be a New York, a Los Angeles. They're not going to be a big market team. But I think a lot of the disappointment comes with, the fact that expectations with new ownership are at an all-time high. Like, I'm not sure the last time the Orioles have had expectations like this, at least for a long-term window, where long-term windows are built over years. Some teams like, for example, the Dodgers, which they have unbelievable amounts of money, like ridiculous amounts of money. Mm-hmm. They can go out there, sign the top 10 free agents and not think anything.
Dodgers have like $1.02 billion in deferred money right now. The Dodgers have more money have more deferred money than the Kansas City Royals are valued at.
God, that's disgusting. Frankly, that is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
But again, with the expectations, with the new ownership, with obviously the young talent, you bring in a Corbin and you make that move. I mean, again, honestly, Zach, the Corbin move set up the expectations.
Yeah.
Because they made the move for Corbin and you're like, wow, this is one of the best pitchers in baseball. They moved off really good prospects for this guy. Like Joey Ortiz is a heck of a player, and DL Hall, who obviously had a couple years up with Baltimore still, is as a pitcher with a lot of good stuff. And so you make that move, you make the big swing. And so now the expectation is, they made a big swing. They're going all in. Now that has to continue to be the trend, but then you lose the guy you went all in for. And so now should the expectations be lowered? I mean, I'm not going to lower the expectations. I think the expectations should still be high because they have young talent like Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Jackson Holiday that you need to be able to build around effectively. And again, right now we're at the end of December. We're at the end of December. There is still time for the Orioles to turn it around, but as I said, they're going to need multiple big moves in order to make up for the loss of Corbin. And however you feel about Tony, which again feels like he is on the way out. I mean, I'd be floored if he came back. Those two guys leaving, Tyler O'Neill and Gary Sanchez, are nowhere near what has to be done to make this team even be on the same talent levels they were last season. And that to me is where there are more questions than answers, because I'm just like, how does this offseason play out? We don't know. But as we try to rack our brains and find the answers, it's hard for me to kind of accumulate the talent level without giving up a lot of prospects or signing guys that are going to be very high risk, high reward players.
Yeah. And hell, you know what, Kev, let's play this game and play along in the chat. If the season started today with how it's going, just this team, the roster as it is, season started today, what is the Baltimore Orioles record?
What's their record?
What record do they finish with?
I'm going to say in the 80s.
Yeah, I was going to say like 85.
Yeah.
85. And now, like, let's look at this. Wow, I'll tell you, a lot of 85, 86s came exactly as I'm liking that we're
Yeah,
all.
look at that. We're on the wavelength
Everyone's
with
on the same
everybody.
page.
Yeah.
It's 2:24 a.m. on the East Coast, and everyone's on the same page. Which appreciate you guys if you are tuning in. Kevin and Zach
Absolutely.
React. Go
Over
live after
100 at
every
2:20 a.m., 2:30 a.m.
2:30 a.m. We got 100 people on YouTube.
100 on YouTube. People tuning in on Twitter. Like,
yeah, this is awesome. Appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button if you're new. Go live after every single Orioles and Ravens game, and when breaking news happens at any time, any single time, even at 1:30. Kevin, I'm okay with the meeting. I was in bed and I was like half asleep, and I was like, Corbin Burnes. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, Corbin. I was like, what?
Dude, I was doing work. I was finishing up stuff for Locked On. I still have to record Locked On Ravens. I'm doing a bonus episode for, I guess, today. And I'm just like, well, Tommy.
Appreciate you, Tommy. Please send this to the Orioles. They need it. Appreciate you. But Kevin, back to the question real fast. We both kind of agree mid-80s.
Yeah.
I don't think the Orioles are done, but at this moment, unless you're seeing Jackson Holiday take a Gunnar Henderson-esque step, unless you're seeing Adley get back to where he was, you see Tyler O'Neill somehow replaces Tony's Power when, Heston Kjerstad, takes that next step. You're relying on a lot of steps to happen if you're thinking this team is going to be what they were last year. So I think that 85-ish win mark is where I would put them at right now.
Yeah, and I guess it comes down to this, really. Just taking out all potential acquisitions, all the moves the Orioles could make. This comes down to how much you trust a guy like Heston Kjerstad to take a next step, how much you trust Adley Rutschman to bounce back, how much you trust Jackson Holiday to leap and soar past the year he had last season, how much you trust Cade Povich to maybe become a mainstay in the rotation as maybe a 5, maybe a 4. Who knows what happens there? It's how much you trust the young guys for this Orioles team. Because let's take out all the potential acquisitions and just take what this team is right now at face value. I think they're going to make an acquisition. I mean, they have to at this point.
They have to. Listen, Kevin, it's what John Morosi talked about when Ryan Ripken shows at winter meetings, had John Morosi on, and we asked about what are the Orioles going to do, and he talked about, he said they have to be in on everyone. They don't have the luxury of not checking in on these pitchers available at the free agent market, at the trade market, because they don't have the talent there and the depth there to feel like, okay, we're good to go. They don't have that top-end starter. Bradish isn't coming back on opening day. We don't know if Grayson's going to be that guy for a full year. Zach Eflin at the end of last year was a true ace. You don't know if that's going to happen this year. Sugano looks like he could be an incredible veteran presence, and if he puts it all together, could be a very good pitcher, sort of like Shota Imanaga last year. But that's a lot of could be. Hey, if this happens, and you can't rely on everything that could happen to happen. And if your whole goal is to rely on that to happen, you're in a bad spot. The Orioles have to make a move, Kevin. And, it's not if and or, hey, if this happens, well, if that goes down, if these guys aren't looking good. No, it is now. And we've talked about, Kevin, how many times you're getting guys for a lot cheaper now than you'll be getting them in July.
Yep. That's the big part where, I mean, we've said this over and over again, but if Corbin was the Orioles deadline acquisition, they would have had to give up Jackson or Samuel Bassai or one of those guys, maybe even multiple in that package because he's that good, even for a rental, because you're outbidding a lot of other teams who are also looking for that pitcher help. I mean, guys like Tanner Scott last trade deadline or Kikuchi, all those guys. You're bidding against all these teams in a very short amount of time. The reason the Royals were able to get Corbin for what is still a below average Corbin return is because it happened right at the end of the offseason.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the approach that they have to take, but there's not going to be a name that's as good as Corbin this time around. And it does come a point where, and they started this process last year with the Corbin trade and obviously the moves they made last year, but they've been stockpiling their farm system for years and years and years. You got to make your assets work for you. You got to make your young guys work for you. And part of that is, when is it time to take that next step towards being a young team with a lot of exciting prospects, a great farm system, and otherworldly types of prospect depth? And when is it time to move off of those guys and supplant your team of those guys and bring in vets? And for a team like Baltimore, I'm a Denver Nuggets fan. I'm not sure if everybody knew that. That's also, crazy fun fact. But for these smaller market teams that, aren't as attractive to free agent destinations, you have to either make trades or you have to lock up your homegrown talent long term. And sometimes that means overpaying for a guy. For example, like the Nuggets did with Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. Those contracts are awful, but they have to do it because, look, Denver's a cool city, but like, if you have an option to go to LA or New York or Denver, a lot of guys are choosing the big city. Yeah. And so when the Orioles got Corbin, like you said, Zach, this was the chance for him to kind of see the organization for a year and say, hey, you've been with us now. You know what it's like here. We thought we had a great year with you. Let's see if we can get something done, because it's a lot more likely that a guy resigns that way than it is just going cold turkey at the winter meetings or cold turkey with the guy's agent, being a small market team and saying, hey, we want to sign this guy. I mean, that would be Corbin laughing in their face and saying, yeah, okay, I'm just going to sign with Arizona. There's no even thought about it. And who knows what happened with those negotiations? Again, we know Toronto and San Francisco. We haven't heard anything about the Orioles at this point. At least I haven't heard anything.
No, and I don't think we're going to. I'm at the point I don't think we're ever going to really know what the Orioles offered for Corbin Burnes. The only thing we know is he will not be pitching in Baltimore, and he'll be in Arizona for what looks like the next 6 years. Definitely, man. Disappointing. Disappointing. Like I said, was I expecting Corbin Burnes to re-sign here? No. I thought pretty much all along, especially at the way the year ended, you just felt like they were going to part ways. I think he was going to always go to the West Coast. Doesn't make it any less disappointing. There was always still that hope of, okay, what if he does? What if he does come back? So that's really where they're at. We've talked about this entire time. It's disappointing, and the biggest thing is because kind of in the back of your head, you were like, this solves a lot of issues if he just comes back. Like if they just pull the trigger and get him back, you're sitting there feeling a whole lot better. But he's officially gone. No more hypotheticals, no more, well, if his price goes down, well, if he only wants 3 years, high money, if he wants long-term, he's not coming back. There's no coming back. The Orioles need to go to plan C. I don't think this is B anymore.
Yeah, I don't even know what plan we're on anymore.
I don't know what plan we're on, but they got a move has to happen. So, Kevin, before we get our prediction, let's play a little predicting game. Who do you think they end up with?
Oh. I'm going to say Nick Pivetta.
Jesus Christ, Kevin.
You asked me and I answered.
You want people to burn this place down.
That's my prediction. Could I see them swinging on a 1-year deal with a Verlander or a Scherzer? It's possible.
I'm saying trade. I'm saying.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant like who's still out there, pitcher move. Sorry. Okay.
That's why.
All right.
I was like, that's your prediction.
No, I thought you meant signing. Gosh.
I
thought you meant signing.
You want to burn?
No. I was like, all right. Scratch that. Scratch it. Trade.
And in the chat, also put your prediction for who you think the Orioles would trade for.
Yes. Okay. Trade wise, I mean, I just think the Seattle thing makes too much sense. I'm gonna say it's Castillo. I just think there's been so much smoke around that forever. I mean, I just feel like that's the move where the Mariners have struck out on a lot of offense, literally and figuratively. this offseason and even during the season. The reason they're looking for offense is because their offense is not good. But they've missed out on a lot of opportunities to bring in guys that maybe they thought they had a shot at, like Christian Walker or some of those other players. They're not available anymore. So I feel like their options are dwindling, and maybe they're going to get a little desperate. Not that they don't want to trade starting pitching for offense anyway, but I feel like that connection makes too much sense. So I'm going to go with Castillo. I think it'll be him. And obviously the connection everybody makes is probably Mountcastle going out.
Yeah, I think that if they make a trade with a team like the Mariners, if they do make that trade, I think I would put a lot of money on it's Ryan Mountcastle who goes. I'm going to say Dylan Cease. Just go. I'm going to go Dylan Cease. I think that the Padres really want to get rid of him. And I think it just makes so much sense. I've seen people in the chat put it as well, and I would love it. If you're going to go get Cease, I would give extra up to go get Luis Arraez. Give me a Luis Arraez just batting 330 at the top of the
That's
lineup.
what we wanted. That's what we wanted during the trade deadline is a high contact, low power guy at the top of their lineup. Like
just go and get a Dylan Cease, and then if you can 2 birds, 1 stone, that'd be give me a rise. Just throw he was playing first base. He's not going to be a Gold Glover. He's going to kind of be a detriment to the team at first a little bit, but you can teach him first base. He played it last year. He made some plays there. I would give up a good extra prospect to get Luis Arraez. I've loved that man since he was in Miami. Just the walking batting title.
So you're okay with them doing the 1-year rental thing again?
Yeah, unfortunately, I hate to be it, but their hand is forced. They didn't, if they're going to go with Seattle, Luis Castillo is the guy. I would also not mind Joe. Sorry, if you have to give up Kerstead to get a Gilbert or a Wu or a Miller, damn.
He said it himself. Wow. He said it himself.
Wow, Joe. But here's the thing, Joe. Why would the Cubs give up a pitcher to get another left-handed power outfielder? They just got Tucker.
Yeah, after getting Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, Joe. I just don't think I think they're going to go for it. I don't think the Cubs are going to give up anything.
Well, let me ask you this, Zach, and if anybody in the chat wants to chime in as well for this, what prospects would you be willing to give up for a guy like Dylan Cease? And if you want to do the Arraez deal too, like if you want to throw in the other guy.
See, I don't think Cease would take, especially Cease being on a 1-year rental. I don't think Cease would take as much as people think.
Yeah, it's not going to look anything near.
I think it would be like maybe like an Enrique Bradfield Jr. would be like the highlight of it. Or they could go for some lower guy. It also depends on what, the Padres might also want some major league ready guys. So are they
San Diego's
okay
in a weird spot?
Yeah, are they okay with, switching up and taking a Ryan Mountcastle? Do they want a guy like, I think I could see San Diego wanting, at least in their minds, a guy like Heston Kjerstad, something who's young, controllable, because they're in a weird money situation right now, but also ready now and talented.
Yeah. They have less to work with now because they made all those trade deadline moves, which is fine. I mean, we wanted them to make moves, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that they've gotten their offense, like they've gotten their field position guys. I think you have to look full force towards pitching because, Zach, we haven't even talked about the bullpen at all this stream.
No. Nope.
Like, you move on from Danley Coulomb. Jacob Webb is now gone. They still have some work to do in that bullpen, not to mention you have to probably make one big starter move on top of – you have to make one big starter move on top of everything now. If the Orioles – and this is no fault of Grayson, this is no fault of Eflin. But if you go into the season with Grayson / Eflin, whichever one you want to put ahead of the other, is your 1-2, the Orioles are not as good of a team as they were last season. And they can, guys can step up, guys can do this, guys can do that. But on paper, I'm saying on paper, they're not as good of a team. And with, like you mentioned, the Red Sox getting better, the Yankees getting, evening out after losing Soto, other teams making moves, I think that's the most frustrating / disappointing part is we're just kind of sitting here, with that stick and we're looking to do something. Do something. And all the other teams are. And, the Orioles had their 5 minutes of fame with the O'Neill and Gary Sanchez signings. But even that, it was really like, okay, they have to go make a move.
Can we have any Orioles related news that we have to go live for happen when we're just casually able to hop on? We've had when we were both out places, so neither of us could do it for the O'Neill. And then Gary Sanchez signed, and so we had to rush and do another one at midnight. Yeah. And then this, a 1:30 a.m.
I've never, even doing Locked On Ravens, I've never had this happen late like this. The latest news has broke for me Ravens wise that I've had to scrap an entire show for was 11:30, and that's when they hired Mike McDonald, and I'd already recorded the show. I've never had something happen like this at 1:30 in the morning where
imagine if we were what move just went down at 3 a.m. last few days ago.
Oh, I think that was Jock Peterson.
Yeah, there was Jock Peterson went down at 2 a.m. That if the Orioles would have made a move, if the Orioles make a move at 3 a.m., you'll be so mad.
I don't even think you're gonna be up. I think I'm gonna be the only one that's up.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to just keep ringing, man. Just keep on. I was literally sitting there looking at my phone. I was like, oh. It took me a second. I was like, oh shit, Corbin Burnes just signed.
Yeah, I didn't even I read the tweet. I was kind of like you. I read the tweet. Now we've seen so many Corbin Burnes could go here, Corbin Burnes could go there. Here's a rumor about Corbin Burnes. I was like, okay, another one of those. And I'm like, wait. And then of course the disappointment set in, and now we're here. I know even these streams, we try to provide therapy and levity in these situations. I feel like these are tougher to do so during you lose a big free agent, even as opposed to a loss.
Because at least the loss we get tomorrow. After a loss, at least we're playing tomorrow. This is we're
at least the last game that wasn't great, but man, it is crazy.
Game one was I took game 2 a lot better than I took game 1.
Well, I think after game 1, everyone was kind of
it was just
everyone was already let down from game 1. But I don't know what game it'll be this year, Zach, but the Zach Bollinger, Heston Kjerstad hitting the head stream in 2025, that reaction, not Heston getting hit in the head, obviously, but Zach reacting the way that he did to that, gonna be absolutely wild. Wild.
Yeah, that was fired me up.
He goes, if you have kids or if you don't like curse words, I'll give you 5 seconds to get out of here. He just ranted.
I had to give him a 5-second warning, and then I went off.
Hey, you know what? You're for the people, Zach. That's what I can say about that. You're for the people.
Exactly. Kevin, it's what we do. We're for the people. That's why we're going live at 2:30 in the morning to talk about Corbin Burnes and disappointment. So, Kevin, any final thoughts?
Man, I mean, I think we could probably go for hours and hours here, but
yeah,
even we have to sleep. I mean, I'm recording Locked On Ravens right after this. So I'm gonna hop right back in a different studio.
You never sleep. Kevin is about to go to lunch in a few minutes.
Yeah, I know. I have my got my Chipotle all ready to go. That's just
I feel
I don't think I brought it in here with me, but I did buy in honor of Rocco the Christmas candy gets discounted after Christmas.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I got the 30-pack of Nerds gummy clusters. You know what I'm talking about? That's the hype. I'm all on that train, by the way. Nerds gummy clusters are just unreal. I don't even have a word.
the marketing department, when they were like, let's just cut the rope up, may have saved that. Took that. Like, I hope they own part of the company now. They deserve for that idea.
Absolutely crazy. So, yeah, I mean, even the turnout that we had, I mean, right around 100 total consistently on
like
YouTube,
112,
a ton of people on Twitter. It started this up at like 1:45 in the morning. And again, we're going to get more people coming in as the day goes on. And maybe we'll go live again tomorrow just to kind of do a Fallout stream.
Yeah.
We'll see. You know, maybe Ryan will hop on, or he'll do something. We'll do something over there. But man, yeah, Mike, this is man. I have this about sums it up. This about sums it up. You know, the strongest soldiers are the ones that consistently either watched the Orioles during their 100-loss seasons, went to games during the Orioles 100-loss seasons. It's been rough, and that's why the expectations are so high, right? Because we've been through that. We have been through those years. We have been waiting for moments like this. And when you get a guy like Corbin, you know, me, you 10 years ago, 15 years ago, could never have even fathomed of a guy like Corbin Burnes even being traded for by the Orioles. And now that you lose him, and now that he's gone, you know, it's just like, when is a guy like that coming around? All the conversation was about, this is the guy. Ever since Mike Mussina, this was the guy in Baltimore, and now it's like, when are you going to get a guy like that again? You know, it could be a really long time.
Yeah, and that's I think the most disappointing part of it is you don't know if this will ever happen again for the Orioles. Kevin, I'm trying to find me after the one chip challenge saying the Orioles got Corbin Burnes.
No, I mean, and this just ends a string. Oh man, I have something in my eye. This just ends a string of really good memories for me. Like, I will never forget when the Orioles traded when it was announced. Zach was pacing up and down the studio, because for those who don't know, we had just finished recording the regular Ryan Ripken show. Mm-hmm. It was Ryan, Zach, and I in studio. And it happened maybe 5 minutes after the stream ended. Ryan was flipping out, asking who was traded, because no one knew who was traded at the time. He was wondering who it was. He was freaking out. Zach was like bouncing up and down around the studio, sending out 3 tweets a second.
It was insane. I was
going in the drafts, finding stuff about Corbin. I was trying to convince them to go live again, and that was really our first ever reaction stream.
Yeah,
and that was that's still to this day one of the most successful streams we've ever had on the Ryan Ripken show. Like, a lot of good memories with Corbin, and obviously not to mention how he performed for the most part. Yeah, August was tough, but he was an ace through and through. And I just kind of wonder what's next. Are you looking for it?
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. Okay, wait. I think I might have. 1 second.
You clipped it up, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to find where.
Here we go. Force feed Rocco the one chip challenge for Castillo. That could be.
Oh my God, I'm this one. This was a nightmare.
Yeah. And Alex, I see you, man. I see you. The Orioles are losing their best pitcher and their best power hitter in terms of last season. Like, we're not shying away from that. You know, we've been pretty real about how right now the Orioles are a worse team than they were a season ago. They still have time to fix it up, but it doesn't make what has happened so far any less disappointing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it became pretty obvious, especially after O'Neill. I don't think we expected Corbin to come back, but once O'Neill got signed, I think writing was on the wall. I don't see Tony coming back. Yeah. I'm very curious to see where Tony goes, because it does not seem like they're, at least at the moment, I'm not sure. I think he might go to like a team like Houston, maybe Boston.
Yeah, I know
But
KC's been mentioned.
I'm wondering if
before.
Toronto's going to try. Toronto, I'm going to say, will say they're involved just because Toronto loves just being involved in things.
Well, I said in the group last night when we were talking about Corbin, I said, or Rocco said, yeah, Toronto, their PR team is awesome because they're always involved in guys.
They are.
And I said, yeah, then they go and they sign someone like Rocco DeSangro after they strike out on everyone. Yeah. So it's just like, I don't know. Houston's in a weird spot. I wouldn't be shocked if Tony goes to Houston. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened.
No, not at all. Kevin, I really can't find this clip. This is pissing me off now.
Are you trying to search through Twitter?
Yeah, which is going to make it so much worse. But
well, because the Twitter algorithm or like the Twitter search function is so royally screwed up right now.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, nothing is popping up.
Yeah. I mean, what I think the Orioles have to do now is if they don't make a deal before the season, that's a huge mistake because you can obviously go and you can say like, oh, they have the trade deadline. But if you approach it that way, you're doing one of two things. Honestly, one of many more things. And I'm just going to narrow it down to two. You're doing one of two things. You're increasing the price of what a pitcher is going to cost at the trade deadline. And then we've talked about this before. There's no guarantee, even with the year like Milwaukee had last year, there's no guarantee that Corbin's available at the deadline because there are teams that have specific thought processes for how their season is going to go. And over the course of the year, month into the year, 3 months into the year, you get to the trade deadline, that shifts because sometimes your team is a lot better than you thought it was. And so you might be sitting there telling teams, we don't really want to move this guy right now, or we'll move him for this. And maybe you're like, we don't want to do that. We'll come back to you at the trade deadline. And a team says, okay, fine. We'll talk at the trade deadline. And then a team that thinks they're going to be really bad all of a sudden is really good. And they're like, we don't really want to deal our best player now because we actually think we have a shot to win. So now we're actually going to go out there and be buyers. And that just ruins your entire plan. So I think you have to nail this thing down here in the next month. I think I'm giving the Orioles until 1 week into spring training.
Wow.
Because you don't need to. Okay, maybe a trade, I'll give them a little more leeway.
I mean, okay, true. I'll give them a week.
If it's a signing, it's a week into spring training. If it's a trade, I'll give them until the second to last or last week because that guy is probably doing stuff with their team. So that's a little less of a ramp-up process. So if it's a signing without a ramp-up process, I'm giving it a week into spring training. If it's a trade where a guy's been working out with his team, getting innings in, whatever, that's a little more leeway for me. I'd give him till like the second to last week of spring training.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kevin, I found it. Hold up.
The Orioles got Corbin Burnes.
Loud.
The Orioles got Corbin Burnes.
Loud. And that got you through that moment.
It got me
through that moment.
It got me through the moment. Kevin, there's just, man. It was expected, but it's still disappointing.
Yeah, it's never fun when, even if you expect something to happen, because even with every day that passed, and obviously everyone was so locked in on San Francisco being the team, and it wasn't happening. I even found myself falling into a trap of like, could Baltimore really maybe still be in this?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get hopes up because in reality, I think we all knew that he wanted to go back west and there were really no questions about that. But with every day San Francisco didn't get this done, it felt so obvious. And you never really thought a team like Arizona was going to make a serious push here because now they essentially have to unload Jordan Montgomery. Do you feel like that would be a move the Orioles could do?
Don't do it.
I don't want them to. I don't want them to.
You can't.
But I'm just saying that they definitely have to unload him now in some way, shape, or form before whatever. But
Kevin, we're back when people are asking me to fix the banner.
Yeah. People, my picture on, you can't see it now, but my picture is very crooked sometimes. Like it falls a little bit. And people in the Locked On Ravens comments are like, your picture's crooked again. But I'm doing a whole like gear revamp, background revamp once the Ravens offseason hits. So hopefully after February.
Yeah.
And
What, mid-February?
yeah, beginning to mid-February there. So I'm doing a whole revamp. I am either going to revamp the corner or just get out of the corner entirely and open the space up a little bit. So that will be something. And also, I am planning more food challenges for the season for us, even more extreme, and even doing them just after wins. I might retire props and only do food challenges.
That could be electric, Kevin.
Yeah.
That could be electric.
Yeah, we got, and Ryan says it all the time. We have plenty planned on the Ryan Ripken show, but here on Kevin and Zach React, we're really going to try to get this thing going. And plus, the offer, it has not gone away. It is real that once we hit 2,400, we're doing a 24-hour stream, and we're going to have crazy stuff going on there because, man, I forgot about all this stuff. It's such a shift for us doing a stream like every day during baseball season. We're doing all this crazy stuff, and then we just don't.
I bought this for no reason because we thought about it after.
Well, now you can use it this year. Yeah,
I'll learn to play it. I know I promised like a long time ago.
The Orioles Magic. You promised. You did promise.
Yeah, exactly. Kevin, any final thoughts? Like you said, maybe if there's more fallout tomorrow, we might talk about it a little bit more, come back. But at least right now, we can only be this disappointed for so long, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to sting for a while for me. Like, you have a guy like that on your team. You give yourself a chance to be in the equation to re-sign him.
What you talked about, like they set the expectation when they went out and got him that, hey, you're willing to do this and try to win. And now when you're doing the opposite of it the next year, you're like, wait, what? Like, why did we go get him if we weren't gonna? Okay, are we? And that's why we say they need to have something else up their sleeve, or I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean The phrase is "it takes two to tango." I don't even know if, in this case, zero might have been tangoing. Like I just feel like it was Corbin wanted to go west. The Orioles knew Corbin wanted to go west, and that's still like we don't know what happened, but you still have to make an offer. And I don't know if they did or if they didn't. We probably won't know that, but it just feels so disappointing because now you look at a team that, the past 2 seasons, there have been such high hopes for deep playoff runs and the teams as they were structured. And then you come off the disappointing 23 season, you get Corbin for 24. And then now you're just kind of back to where you were. And now we're honestly accounting for Tony being gone, even though he's not yet. And you have a lot of work to do. So offseason is not done. There's still time for moves, but the Orioles got to get something going here because we are running out of time, but time's not run out yet. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Time is not run out yet. It's ticking. Man, time is ticking, but it's not run out yet. Orioles have to get something done. I think we both agree on that. You cannot go into next year with this team, with this rotation, with this offense. They need to get something done, and they need it to be a significant move. But I think that's going to do it for us tonight. Late night stream, always fun. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, Zach wants to go to bed. Zach wants to go to bed.
We got Kevin's going. Kevin's like going to.
Yeah, I'm going to record Locked On Ravens. Zach is going to bed.
Yeah.
Man.
I like this. The O's are questionable. The O's are questionable. We'll see. The O's are questionable.
We'll see what happens.
Hit that like and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Enjoy the content. We go live after every single Orioles and Ravens game. Breaking news happens like this anytime, any place, anywhere. We'll go live, as you see. Actually, Kevin, we got to stay on for another minute because
let's talk, Mike. I appreciate you. We appreciate you for saying this because we do try to praise where praise is due, criticize where criticism is due. That's my mantra everywhere. That's our mantra here on this show, and we're here to provide our opinions and our analysis on things, but not really go one way or the other too far in a direction. Like, obviously, we have strong feelings about things, much like everybody who watches and listens to us.
Trust me. We are just as mad about Corbin leaving as everyone else.
Right. We feel the emotions, and that's why we love doing this, is because we love coming on here and being a place where we can celebrate, we can vent, we can do all this stuff together, and we can be in it together. So, whether you feel super positive, super negative, whatever it is, we're here for you. And this is why we do it. And Dan, that's what I'm talking about. And Alex, I saw that. Appreciate you as well.
Yeah.
Generational live stream here. This is history. This is the latest we've ever done.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
What we've started?
Yeah, because West Coast baseball.
Yeah, but we didn't. West Coast game.
Kevin, we had, because I remember. Okay, hold up.
I think it was like 1:30. We started this at 1:45. Can you actually see when we started the stream?
I don't know, but I remember tweeting out. I swore I tweeted out.
This is definitely the longest. No, we have gone till 3 before. We have gone till 3.
Yeah, we've definitely gone till.
But 3. I just don't know if we've started at 1:45. I thought
we had one that started at 2 a.m.
Maybe. I don't remember that, though. But once you get to 2 a.m., you don't really remember a lot. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd be remembering it anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, I swore we started at 2 a.m. one time after one of the road games against the Athletics.
Yeah. Yeah, Nick, we miss them too. Zach only sometimes misses them, but I miss them all the time. So, you did it to yourself. You did it to yourself.
I know. It was after the 5-game losing streak. I was like, I just don't want to react to this game.
Well, and that's exactly what we're talking about, right? We feel the emotions of like, dang, man, we really have to come on. But no, we love doing it, and I do miss the daily streams a lot. Yeah, we didn't do every game last year because we didn't start doing this until a little bit into the season. And then I think we had one game we missed after we started. Yeah. But this year we're planning to go all 162 plus, hopefully plus in the postseason. Like 180-ish. Yeah. So we're going to try to hit that milestone. And or if it's like previous years, 164. Well, would be great to make the playoffs. Not so. I think if that happens, we'll be talking about a managerial change. I'll just say that. Oh, Kevin, the spiciness mid-season. The Orioles are going to start the year like 3-4, and the hider is going to be unreal. It's going to be opening day loss. Season's done. Guys will be calling for heads. I love baseball. That's when Orioles Twitter will start popping up again. You see, that's why I love like reacting every day, is because we can just we just get the wildest reactions like on both spectrums throughout, because like you can literally one day we're saying the sky's falling, and then the next day they put up 18 runs and shut out the other team, and we're like, this was all they needed. Like it just, and then the next day they're shut out again, and you're like, well, back to the drawing board. I'm just looking back on last season, and every single stream saying the word consistency 55 million times, and them like we had to bring up runners in scoring position one more time. We were doing that. The bullpen was being crazy. We were so upset about the starter injuries, and then the starters were the best part of the team. Yeah, like those are fine. Tweets are gonna hit different. Yeah, that's just that. And then there's that. Obviously, the period September, October, hopefully November, where we're doing Ravens and Orioles, and we're doing both those streams here. I'm doing the Ravens stuff on Locked On Ravens, and we're just like trying to nail down stream times. Yeah, that's what it is. And we're trying to grow the community. We're gonna. Our big goal here is to grow the community as much as we can here over this next Orioles season. And we're a year-round show. We just don't do it as much because Ravens play once a week, and then Ravens don't give us enough news midweek. They just unless we want to react to like injury reports each week. There's like trade deadline, but and we did. When we got Deontay, we went live. When we got we did that stuff, but we're not. Also,
baseball-
I thought that I was like very alone at this hour because for those who don't know, I stay up until like anywhere from 4 to 6. I was up till 7:30 this morning. And then I had to get up at 10:30 to go on ESPN radio. So I am running on like literally fumes right now.
Also, I
But-
might be Terps games might just be happening if I'm watching and they get a big dub, I might be talking about it. So
Yeah, well, no, well, I can't believe you missed this one. You're gonna be the king of the Yankee hate watch.
I can't wait. Like,
this
I don't
year.
think people understand. For the first probably 2 months of the season, I will be posting every Juan Soto home run with all caps, former Yankee Juan Soto. It's a home run. Generational talent.
No, you know what the best one will be is he makes some amazing diving catch.
Oh my God. Always respected his game in the field.
Yeah. Always a great fielder.
Always
a great
Gold Glove
fielder.
finalist this year, Kevin. He's always
And that's a fact. And that's a fact. You cannot
This was
dispute
Buck
that.
Showalter coming on the show, like literally like a week later. He's like, don't want to name any names, but the Gold Glove is getting a little ridiculous. And we were like, okay, we know who he's talking about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Gosh. 305. Kevin, we impressed, we impressed me, myself even,
Well, yeah, you impressed me because you were like, yeah, I'm not doing this.
Oh,
and
I texted guys.
and then 2 minutes later, you're like, okay, I'll do it.
Kevin, for those of you obviously no one know, Kevin texted and was like, yo, Zach, are we going live? And I texted and said, I'm not going live right now. I was like, I'm out for the night. And then he was like, all right, if you can just like make a thumbnail, like I'm going to go live. I was like, I got it. I like, it hit me. I was like, it's Corbin Burnes. Like, I was like, still in there. I was like, it's not even and then I was like, oh, you know what? So now we're here. We're here.
That's how things evolve. We did get a wild Ryan Ripken who did in fact go back to sleep. Ryan did not stay up for this. Yeah. So but that's what I'm saying. I feel like sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like a lot of people are up with me at this time. Like, I'm always up at this time.
I think it helps at the Friday.
Or I take naps from like 1 to 3 a.m. and then do my work from like 3 to 6 a.m. It's really bad. For those who don't know, my sleep schedule like 2 or 3 years ago was 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. And I just get up and do work and then work from 7:30 to 11:30 in the morning. Like, it was bad. But look at this. 307, still hovering around 70, 80 people on YouTube, people still tuning in on Twitter. Obviously, would have loved to go live for not this reason and instead talk about Corbin resigning. But,
Kevin, how do I invite people? How do I get a link to invite people to the Discord? Because Yoda's asked us to put the Discord chat in.
Oh, you want me to do it?
If you can just.
Oh my. Oh, we're both trying to bring up different comments. Look at this.
You saying, look at this.
See, the biggest fan of the show always knows when we go.
Sasaki or bust. I don't think Sasaki won't happen, but hope Sasaki goes to a team that can then trade us one of their top pitchers. Is going to be the way that happens.
Well, but yeah, thank you, Alex. You and Ryan have been on that for a while. Where let Sasaki impacts the Orioles, even if he doesn't sign with the Orioles.
Yeah, exactly. Let him go somewhere that they then have. Because if he goes to the Mariners, they have way too many pitchers that they know what to do with. So, like, you just got to go.
Yeah. And I just feel like they might be trying to do that, not just because Sasaki's a heck of a player, but because, I mean, if they sign him, they have more opportunity to trade pitchers for offense and not feel the impact as much.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I would not be shocked.
Also, I hate to give Rocco credit. He sent us a message, and that's how I found out.
Like Rocco always beats me. Rocco also stays up late. And Rocco always
he sent that really, and I see Rocco sent a John Heyman thing, and I was like, oh, who signed? And then I just see Corbin Burnes, and that's why I was like, oh, it's Corbin Burnes. I was like, it's Corbin Burnes. Ugh.
Yeah. All right. Here is the Discord, the correct Discord.
Yep. Correct Discord. So go join that Discord for the Ryan Ripken Show. right here. Awesome community over there. They're doing some sort of event on Tuesday in Discord. So yeah, some New Year's stuff. Yeah, they're doing New Year's stuff. I think they're drinking a beer every hour on the hour, starting at
wait, that's electric.
Yeah, they're starting at 6 o'clock because that's when it hits New Year's in over in England for British Raven, and then they're going to they're doing it all the way. I think they said until West Coast America. So they're doing every.
Wow, that is awesome.
So if you want to be a part of it, go join the Discord. They are drinks Tuesday night, 5 p.m. So starting at 5 p.m.
5 p.m. Okay, 5 p.m. Eastern. Very nice.
Yep. So join the Discord.
Yeah, and that's a big community over there.
Yeah,
we have over 250 people in the Discord. So
yeah, so a lot of
baseball
fun
talk, football talk,
hockey,
a lot of stuff
anything,
going on.
Basketball, and literally anything. Pro wrestling. Wow, there's actually a lot more pro wrestling stuff in here. That's awesome. Oh, there are so many awesome communities in here. Yeah, this is I feel like every time I check, another one's been added, you know? So
ever evolving Discord.
Exactly, which has been awesome. Go join it, be a part of it. It's free. It's free. You just join the community. We usually put in, if we do have these live streams, we'll send something into that, letting everyone know that we're going live. But that's going to do it for this edition. Kevin, anything else? Were you about to?
Oh, no. I was just no.
That's going to do it for us. For Kevin and Zach React, hit that like and subscribe button on your way out if you haven't already. Corbin Burnes goes to the Arizona Diamondbacks. 6 years, $210 million. Big disappointment for the Orioles. But we're now just going to have to wait and see what they do. And when it happens, we'll be going live to react within. We hope you come react with us as well. That's going to do it for this edition of Kevin and Zach React. We'll see you next time. And as always, 3:11 a.m. Chewies.